Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Monday, July 20th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the Historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting a work session on Greater Dubuque Development Corporation.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for July 20th, 2026. As a reminder to viewers and listeners, due to the nature of tonight's meeting topic, public input is not accepted. However, you may contact the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Leyendecker.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Staver.
Here.
Wethel. Here. City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And Assistant City Attorney Lehman.
Here.
Thank you. Our work session topic is Greater Dubuque Development Corporation Quarterly Update. I will turn it over to its President and CEO, Jason White.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the city team, and anybody watching at home in the Dubuque community tonight. My name is Jason White. I serve as the President and CEO of Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, as you know. Tonight we're going to present some information on the 2025 skills gap analysis. So we do this every year. And of course, as you know, our purpose and our role is to compete for business, population, and workforce. So tonight's going to be a little bit about all of those things, but particularly on the workforce population side of things. The one thing you'll see a little bit in here, and I hope you have a chance at some point to review the 2025 skills gap analysis, and pretty soon I'm going to turn it to my teammate, Nick Hockenberry, Director of Regional Development. He spearheaded as the captain of the ship our skills gap analysis. It includes a couple of things. Every year, what we look at is the gaps and surpluses that exist in our tri-state market when it comes to individual occupations and then also their industries. And also we look at trends for economic and population growth. And this year has a little bit of a different twist. As you're aware, we gather a lot of data as an organization, both from our info actions and our studies, such as the housing studies, and also obviously the skills gap analysis in other ways. What we're trying to do as an organization is supported by our board and as directed by our board is to look at ways that we can maximize the data that we're producing to achieve some measurable results and also outcomes, and also present our partners such as the city of Dubuque with some information that you can act on both in your goal setting and also on a day-to-day basis. So in this, we pivot a little bit this year. We look at a lot about strategies. So one of the things that we're looking to do as we move forward in terms of competing for residents and population is being a little bit more direct and comprehensive with a population growth strategy. So this report starts the pivot from a skills gap analysis to a population growth strategy. So a little bit about background on that, and without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my teammate, Nick Hockenberry.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and of course, city staff. As Jason pointed out, my name is Nick Hockenberry. I'm the Director of Regional Development at Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, and I will be presenting on our skills gap analysis for the past year. We look back and look forward in this report. And every year that we publish this analysis, we look back to see where we've come, and we look forward to see how we can position ourselves to be more successful in the future. So it gives us precision to tackle some of those workforce challenges and opportunities that we see now, as well as the overview to make strategic positioning decisions for the future. And so tonight I'll walk you through the regional data quickly, name some of the strategies that we use to respond to what the data tell us, and then lastly to spotlight one program that I think deserves a special call out. So as I dive in, I'd like to thank the council, who along with Dubuque County and the DRA are our Dubuque Works funders. Dubuque Works serves as the collaborative body comprised of K-12 partners throughout the county and the region as a whole, our colleges, the workforce system, and many in the nonprofit community to define and address those workforce challenges and opportunities that we see in the region. So in 2024, this analysis, we've done this report since 2024, and this analysis has helped us answer a deceptively simple question, and that is, are we developing the talent that we need for our region now and in the future? We do that by comparing occupational data and comparing it to that post-secondary completion data. Both of these are publicly available data sources from BLS as well as the Census Bureau. So that post-secondary data and occupation data is looking at things like NICC's welding certificates, all the way up to the University of Wisconsin-Platteville's Masters in Supply Chain Management and everything in between. We identify where the gaps are in our region to meet that workforce demand. So let's start with the region as a whole. We define our greater Dubuque region as Dubuque County and the 6 surrounding counties across Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. I've always appreciated the region symmetry there because it lends well to the metaphor that we use, a hub and spoke model, but it really is based on the data. So the more complicated map that you see there is a map put together by the Iowa Workforce Development Organization and their Labor Market Information Division. And that's our labor shed analysis, looking at City of Dubuque establishments, so employers, and where their employees are coming from by zip code. So you'll see the darker the color shows where the higher concentration of employees who report on a daily basis to a City of Dubuque establishment employer throughout our region. You'll see that the spread is pretty far. And a couple of commuting data points that I'd like to highlight. Joe Davies County over to the east, across the river there, 24.6% of their working age population commute into Dubuque County every day. And in Jackson County, it's just slightly less at 21.4% of their working age population. I count myself among them, who come into the Dubuque area every day to work. And this has only grown over the last decade. So we are drawing more and more workers from outlying communities into the metro core here in Dubuque County for work. This is the context for everything that follows. When I talk about the region, it is this interconnected workforce and employer system that doesn't necessarily look at our political boundaries. So let's start by first looking at a 20-year arc, so 10 years back and then 10 years forward across the entire region. Employment is projected to grow at 3.8% over the next decade. Working age population, on the other hand, is projected to fall by 3.7%. That's the tension that this region is going to have to manage. Job growth is still there, employers still want to hire, but they have to do so in a shrinking labor market. If we zoom in just to Dubuque County itself, the picture's a little bit different. You'll see that job growth is projected to grow slightly faster at 4.1%, and that working age population has remained roughly flat and is projected to have a slight decline by 2035. Dubuque County is clearly the economic hub of the region, but that just puts more pressure on our workforce system here to deliver for the entire region. The job growth has to be filled by someone, and increasingly it's filled by workers commuting from further afield, which is exactly why we look at a 7-county region for our strategies. So 4 years ago, this graph might look familiar, I presented this outlook, which projected a convergence of those jobs and workforce population. The reality has been Job growth has made the Dubuque area an attractive place to live and work. That's allowed us to keep growing our working age population as well as job growth. Job growth has driven that population growth in our region. The fear is when that relationship reverses, where a contracting working age population hinders economic growth in our region. So this next slide is a little bit complicated, but I'll walk you through it here. So this shows the region now and in the next 10 years. It's the same data that we talked about, working age population contracting modestly. But when we look at these different age bands, we'll first start with the under 40-year-old cohorts on the left. This is the early career pipeline, 20 to 39-year-olds. It's contracting over the next 10 years. Modestly, but the timing is what matters here. So then we look at the middle here, so that 40 to 59-year-old cohort, that grows at about 6%. But that's not a new group of workers entering our market here. That is today's 40-somethings aging in place through the data, not a new pool of workers. Now, if we look at the cohort right at the edge of working age population, our 55 to 69-year-olds, that's roughly 49,000 individuals across the region. Over the next decade, all of them will age towards retirement. That's the retirement wave we've been talking about for years. It is now showing up in the data in the next, what we look at, the next period of growth for our communities. On the far right, you'll see the 75 plus population, and that grows 30% in 10 years. That's a demographic signal you can't ignore. That is additional needs for dependent care, social service demand, caregiving demand. All of that intensifies exactly as our prime working age pool is contracting. So that brings us to the meat of the skills gap, our guide for where we focus our workforce initiatives. On the screen, you'll see our top industries by employment and their 10-year projected growth rate. So healthcare and social assistance leads the way at over 15,600 jobs, growing at about 5%. Manufacturing is right behind at 14,216 and growing faster at almost 7%. Transportation and warehousing is another standout with 8,000 jobs growing at 6.7%. These are the industries doing the hiring. These are also the industries that drive the gaps that we're going to look at next. So each year, the analysis compares annual job openings against annual completions from the region's training and degree programs. So a skills gap shows up when an occupation's demand exceeds the graduates from an associated training program. So this is where we expect employers will have a hard time filling their workforce needs. A few things changed this year that I'll call out. So post-secondary teachers dropped off the list. That's the only departure from the top 20. Electricians are new at number 20, a trade, a hard skill. And the biggest mover on the list are welders, jumping 6 spots from 20 to 14. Another item to flag would be the childcare workforce gap. That nearly doubled this year, jumping from 19 to 10. The nuance here is that within this business category, we've seen a lot of change over the last handful of years with new childcare centers opening up as well as a couple of closing, but with a net increase of jobs in this category across the region. Two further notes on the list before we go on. So the first two of the occupations here, teaching assistants and childcare workers, they have median hourly wages that are under $15 an hour. That's typically our inclusion threshold in this list because we see that as a family-sustaining wage. We include them anyway because of their impact on the workforce as a whole. If you can't find childcare, you, as a working parent, may not be able to get into the workforce yourself. So second, I'd also ask you to take a look on the list, at the top of the list, really. The stockers, order fillers at the top, laborers and freight movers, truck drivers, office clerks, assemblers, cooks. Here's why that matters. These are the first rungs of careers in nearly every industry we talk about. They're also the occupations that our regional certificate and diploma programs are designed specifically to serve. So CDL programs to fill the truck driving gap, business and finance programs to fill the bookkeeping gap. The infrastructure to close these gaps exists in our region. The question is throughput and being able to scale those programs to meet the demand in the area. Employment growth is outpacing population growth. The squeeze is real, and no single fix will close these top 20 skills gaps, as well as the others further down the list. That is why we deploy layered solutions, so focused on attraction, retention, and development of workforce in our market. One of those concrete talent development strategies is Opportunity Dubuque. This program was built by Dubuque Works Partners and Northeast Iowa Community College specifically to address what this report identifies year after year. Tuition-free certificates in fields with the largest gaps, think CNC operators, CDL drivers, phlebotomists, CNAs, with coaching support that doesn't just enroll participants, but helps them along the way through to completion of a certificate program and connection to the employer at the end of it. So here's a quick testimonial, if staff can help me on the video here, that'll help deliver that message.
Hi, my name's Joseph Lewis. Been in Dubuque, Iowa for 14 years. I heard about Opportunity Dubuque because I know other people that went through the program. It's not just a walk in the park where, hey, you get your Class A and then you just get a job. I mean, you really have to keep going, but it's rewarding at the end.
Joe has been an excellent example of someone who is really taking full control and use of the services we provide.
Sometimes you got to go through a couple hoops to get to where you want to be. So right now I'm where I want to be at Prairie Farms. It's a comfortable job, a job I like. Not only you get to serve the community, I get to come home to my kids every day. That's the greatest part about it, and you're making over-the-road money.
So the two individuals you saw there would be Joe, who was the participant, and Marcus, who was our Opportunity Dubuque coach at the time. And I think it illustrates the importance of the design of this program. It's not only to eliminate those barriers, the tuition barriers to get these high demand skills, but also the support so that they can use that skill to truly define success in the workplace for them. And for Joe, it wasn't just getting a CDL so he could be a truck driver. He could have probably made more as a long haul driver, but one of his goals was to be home with his family at the end of the day. And he found an opportunity with that skill and a local employer here to meet that goal. So it's a great example of what this program can do and is doing in the Dubuque area. Moving on next, I wanted to pull this up. This is a new analysis that we've done over the life of the Opportunity Dubuque graduates. But importantly, what you'll see here is an accounting of the certificates tied to the openings that we see this year in jobs associated with them. So you'll see all of the major industries hit here with those number of openings that one of our certificate programs can deliver. One of these certificate programs supported by Opportunity Dubuque and Northeast Iowa Community College. So really meeting or designed and positioned to meet the demand that we see here in the community. Pulling the data together, here are 4 findings that we believe shape how we think about the next decade. So the first, high school talent pools. they really do remain the foundation of the skilled workforce development in our market. A substantial share of those top 20 occupations require only a high school diploma or a short certificate or 2-year award. About 2,400 in the annual skills gap across those top 20 skills gaps meet these entry-level pathways alone. Number two, the gaps touch every major industry. And the industries with surpluses on paper, we think of the healthcare industry, for instance. We do produce a number of registered nurses in this region at our higher ed institutions. We know, though, based on the vetting of the data with those employers, that they don't all stay in the community. So that's an important caveat to the data. Our college students are critical and under leverage. So we know regional institutions attract thousands of students every year. This is the talent attraction work done for us because over 60% of those students are out-of-market students. We need, while those highly skilled individuals go through a graduation, we need to engage them early and in a more robust way upon graduation. And the fourth, the region cannot grow its way out of this. Working age population is projected to fall. 5,500 across the region between now and 2035, with the MSA losing just under 2,000. Birth rates are not going to close that gap. Sustained in-migration is truly the only way to move forward if we intend to grow in the future. Next here, I just wanted to highlight what we'll call 6 of those layered strategies. And the frame is really straightforward. This is built on that focus on the 40 and under individuals and how to grow that part of our workforce over the next 10 years. The first, really focusing on career introduction with our partners at K-12 schools across the region, both in Illinois, Wisconsin, and in Iowa, in the outlying counties here. Number 2, continue to scale Opportunity Dubuque. We've had 4,100 graduates over the last, or over 10 years in that program alone. Those are folks who are going directly into in-demand jobs or continuing their education. We've had a 93% retention rate through those 2 avenues in that program. Number 3, engage and retain our college students. We are doing that at Greater Dubuque through an engagement program, the Community of College program, employer education, engaging international students on pathways into the workforce here. But we need to continue to build that into the future. Number 4, welcoming newcomers. Distinctively, Dubuque has done a great job of engaging newcomers to Dubuque and the surrounding region over the years. We've had 1,600 newcomers come through that program. But we can't do it all. And so we've encouraged our partner organizations like Dyersville, for instance, Dyersville Economic Development, establishing their own unique version of Distinctively Dubuque for the newcomers in their community. We need to continue to expand that across the region. Number 5, I want to highlight reducing transportation barriers and also thank the City Council and what they've done to address, really the only place with a robust public transit system here. Worked closely with Ryan Nucky on aligning employer needs and their workforce needs to connect with the Jewel service and the place of work. And I know over the next year we'll continue to do that during the planning process. And then the last one, really, talent attraction as a core strategy. I said this before, but the region cannot grow its way out of a working age decline by accident. It needs to be deliberate. So truly, in closing, here's what I see in the data. It's 3 forces converging at once. We have a working age population that will contract over the next decade. You saw that earlier. Our most experienced workers, so those 55 to 69 today, over the next 10 years, that 49,000 workers, those 49,000 workers will move into retirement. And At the same time, and this is the first inclusion, we've had this in the report, we have some forces like artificial intelligence and automation who are having a unique impact on those early rungs of careers across industries. So that's 3 forces and 1 cohort caught in the middle, those 40 and under, coming into the workforce with less time to develop, fewer on-ramps into their careers, and more experience walking out the door than any time in our modern era. So no single approach solves this, not attraction, not retention, not development on its own. But the demographic challenge makes bold action in all 3 a requirement. The math no longer rewards patience. So the question gets harder, not whether someone can be great here, but whether we'll be bold enough to bring them here and bold enough to keep them here. And one of the things we're doing with this sort of renewed or twist, as Jason put it on the tool, the skills gap analysis, is asking that question to our partners and employers. And that question being, as we look towards the year ahead, what is one bold action or program that could positively impact talent strategies across the region? And we are going to take that information and amongst ourselves as staff and in outreach to colleagues across the country, identify those strategies that can help us be on the bleeding edge of growing our workforce over the next decade. And with that, thank you for the time this evening. And if there's any additional time, we can take questions, Jason and I.
Yeah, I think we do have time for one question. Thank you very much, Nick. And Jason, thank you for being here too. The quote that caught me right there at the end, the math no longer rewards patience. That's an interesting way of putting that, but that one hits home for sure. We have any questions or discussion? Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I just had a question. From my understanding and reading, really a lot of organizations don't yet understand how AI will individually impact their work. But I sense that it's going to be a major discussion in the next 10 years, trying to figure out how to utilize that technology for the good and prepare our workforce for the future. So just as a thought, I don't know how much time we have to talk about it, but I think that is something that I also think about.
I would say you have 2 minutes to answer that. Not loaded question at all, Nick. Yeah.
Well, I will say, as we started to add that as an important indicator when we're looking at our workforce landscape, especially over the next 10 years, because we are looking forward, it hasn't yet shown up in the data, the impact here. We know it has elsewhere in the country, but one piece that is, I think, illustrative of how it can impact certain sectors in the industry is thinking about the sales professionals in the area. Usually your entry point into sales might be the business intelligence side of that. So doing the early prospecting work for the sales staff, that is more and more being taken over by technology and services that a firm will pay for to do the prospecting, to build that profile for the salesperson to go out and make that call. If you eliminate that entry point, though, into the sales profession, where are you going to get those experienced sales professionals in our market that we need at many of our employers? If you can't develop them here or within a single employer, that looks to be a problem that we won't see the real implications of until years down the line. And we see examples of that across industries as well.
Well, thank you very much for this great information. We always do appreciate having the update from GDDC. It's a great report to look through. I think everybody should, and I think the information you shared with us is incredibly important in this moment. So thank you very much for being here today. All right, we have no further business in the work session. We'll adjourn here for about a minute and then start our regular meeting.